aviation. Okay. Uh, where aviation and tourism industry is your last topic. Okay, so topic number one was your introduction. Topic number two was the procedures or the operations, whatever you do in the aviation industry. Number three was tourism management. That is, you need to learn what tourism management is all about, how their evolution started, what is the role of the aviation industry. Now, in aviation and tourism industry, you will learn what is the role, need, and importance of aviation in tourism industry. Then impact of aviation policies and regulations on tourism industry. Then you will learn about visas, interesting. Then you will learn about passports, which is also interesting, passports and travel documents. Then you will learn about Google global tourism and aviation industry, present and future perspective, which is a little boring, I understand. Okay. Generally, why I say that, because generally when my students used to, when I used to teach them, they say, ma'am, visa, passport. They are so interested in learning. When I come for, future perspective, they say, oh, it's boring because they don't want to know about that. So that's the reason. So today we will just be covering the role, need, and importance of aviation in tourism industry, and then we will be covering impact of aviation policies and regulations on tourism industry. So I am just started preparing visas notes for you. I have just, I believe I've just yeah, I've completed visas notes also. So if time permits, then we will do visa, or else we will do visa tomorrow, because visa is a very interesting topic. Types of visas, and what is an immigration, what is an emigration, all these kinds of things will be coming to now. So if time permits, we will do it today. If not, tomorrow. I don't want to mess up your head with everything. So let's go a little slowly. So we'll just do role and need and importance of aviation and tourism industry, and then we will do impact of policies and regulations on tourism industry. So this is okay. I have not done the first slide. Okay, this is all based on role. Okay, what is the role played by or importance of aviation industry? Sorry, aviation and tourism industry. Okay, so this is actually some of the points. Okay, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, social inclusiveness, employment and poverty reduction, resource efficiency, environmental protection and climate change, um, cultural values, diversities and heritage, mutual understanding, peace and security. So these are some of the points actually. This is I have commas here. Okay, so this is the role which is okay. I put it in this way so it will be a little more clear to you. Okay, so first one, inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Okay, so what is the importance or what is the role played by aviation industry in tourism industry is that they are into sustainable growth. Okay, day by day aviation industry is really increasing. Okay, so they do not have limits. To be very frank, they do not have limits because in 2020, I believe, we had a problem based on the COVID-19, and there was a massive effect on the aviation industry where they had to stop the flights. Right now, that comes also under the implications of aviation industry and tourism. Now, if you're talking about the role, we are talking in general. Okay, so if you see that inclusive and sustainable economic growth is where, day by day, since aviation industry is growing, more number of airlines are coming, more number of aircrafts are arriving. So there is an economic growth for the country happening there, right? They are paying, because even if they are getting more number of aircrafts, they are paying taxes to the government, right? So in the same way, there is a large number of economic growth which is being rendered to the country. If you see social inclusiveness is where, people are tending to move. That is, they are ready to talk to each other, right? There is a social mingleness being happening around people. Okay, before, if you say that they didn't want their life their way, they should go in that. But here, due to the customer services, people are coming to know each other, right? Let it be in the aircraft. Okay, there is a conversation happening, so there is a social mingleness, being as a human beings. There is a social inclusiveness which is happening there. Employment and poverty reduction, where, since more number of airline is coming up, there is an employment progress which is happening. Okay, and due to which, our country, since it's a developing country, the poverty line is coming bit low. Okay, because as and when new number of airlines are coming, new number of employments are being placing up. So day by day, since the employment growth is moving on, there is a poverty reduction in the country. Then resource efficiency is where you are using the entire resource. Okay, let's say based on your internet, or let's say based on your airports facilities. Okay, you're using everything, being an airline. Then environmental protection and climate change. So day by day, okay, they are planning to reduce the emissions, right? Now that is truly based on your what you say, the rules. Okay, the aircraft needs to be checked regularly every day before the aircraft is flying anywhere. So all these kinds of whether it is capable of flying in such a bad weather conditions. So all these is also plays an important role. Cultural values, okay, respecting the values. So every airline is going according to their, if at all it's now, for example, I told you earlier, if you remember, if you see Saudi Arabian Airlines, their the cabin crew's way of dressing, you will understand, oh, this is moving on to a Middle East country, because they should be dressed like that. It is only because it is respecting the culture of another country. Okay, so that is where the cultural values come upon, where you're respecting the cultures of another country. Then diversity and heritage. Yes, we have lots of diversity, even be it in India or be it anywhere across the world. Okay, it is mixed with cultures. Okay, so it's mixed with diversities. Okay, there are lots of people coming and living in different countries for their living, if I could say. But that's a point, right? There are lots of diversities. Mutual understanding, peace, and security. So obviously, there is a lot of mutual understanding happening between the, let's say, between the nations too. Okay, if you need to be flying to another country, you should have an understanding with that country, right? Okay, my aircraft will be coming into your country, so with your people, or let's say with my people who is coming to work for you. So all these kinds of mutual understanding will be happening between two countries. The same thing happens between the what do you say, with the people, right? If now, for example, I am coming here and I'm staying with a person, so there is a mutual understanding between us that, okay, I would pay you this much for a month, right? So that's the same way, in wherever country you go, there should be a mutual understanding with the localizers, so they would be actually able to take care of you. Now, peace and security is where, wherever you go, we are maintaining that. So the airlines also would love to maintain the peace and security, okay, of various kinds of tourists, whoever they are taking upon. Now, these are the important things which the airlines are doing. Okay, based on the tourism industry. Now, if we talk about the tourism industry in general, tourism itself is one of the largest industry. If we note that, okay, it is itself is one of the largest industry. Okay, so according to the World Travel and Tourism Council, tourism supports 284 million jobs. Okay, currently it is supporting around this many jobs for the people. Okay, so it itself is a employed process. Okay, and is contributed 9.8% of GDP in 2015. So it has given a GDP of 9.8% to the government, and out of 62.7 million jobs by the global aviation industry. So in in 284 million, 62.7 million jobs was actually offered by the aviation industry. So they have combined it together. The calculation has been combined it together, tourism and travel industry, if you say. Okay, or let's say aviation and tourism industry, the total job employment was 284 million, but out of which, if you have to bifurcate, out of which 62.7 million jobs was from the aviation and 36 million jobs was from the tourism industry. Okay, so this is something, this is why I said that it is actually interdependent. Okay, so when you're doing a calculation, or when the government is doing a calculation, they never say that tourism is a separate industry and aviation is a separate industry. They include both. They say that aviation and tourism industry, and when you're bifurcating it, they say that this many jobs was provided by the airlines or airports or aviation industry, and this much jobs were provided by the tourism industry general. That is your tour operators, your travel agencies, all these kinds of things. Now, in terms of economic activity, over $892 billion out of the total $2.7 trillion supported by aviation is related to tourism. So, in the entire economic process, 892 billion was actually the total turnover, and by aviation, that is aviation, contributed 2.7 trillion to the tourism industry. Okay, with 54% of all international tourists. So aviation brought all international tourists from worldwide for enjoying the tourism into the country. So that, if you say, maximum number of people would love to travel by air compared to the other processes. Okay, so that is what is mentioned in it. So if we see, air transport plays a vital role in making up this much of economic growth in the country. When you break it down to the regional level, the role of aviation becomes even more pronounced in certain areas. So now that was actually a world calculation. Okay, now if you calculate it via regional levels, if you say in my country, so in that, I have taken the example of Africa, where Africa was just a small island. Okay, it was up to 1.2 million, total was 1.4 million. So before it was just 1.2 million jobs, but later on it got developed to 1.4 million jobs. Okay, so there was a drastic development happening in the tourism industry. Now, in case of some countries, it is hard to imagine their economies running without the steady flow of tourists flown in the airlines. For example, now if you say Maldives is that kind of place, because general tourists rarely come there. Okay, it is not that everyone moves to Maldives regularly. Okay, but people coming there, there is the traveling process to Maldives is very less. If you compare, they need to get on another airport and move on to the Maldives, which is actually, it's a small island, right? So you need to be traveling by other means of transport, which is actually less. So people still who have a longer time for their vacation moves to Maldives, but still, they wakes up, they calculates their cost of living, and their traveling and all those things, and there where less number of aircrafts fly, the tourism might be coming into on a fluctuation mode. Okay, so that is what meant there. Now, the aviation industry supports tourism and international business by providing the world's only rapid worldwide transportation network. So if you talk about aviation in general, it is the greatest supporter of tourism and international business, because it is developing the business, okay, by providing what one of the world's rapid, that is very much speed, okay, in the worldwide transportation network. If you calculate, that's what I said, if you calculate compared to the other transportation, if you find it out, aviation is, or let's say airline is, one of the fastest moving transportation, right, across the world. Now, aviation provides the only worldwide transportation network, which makes it essential for global business and tourism. So it's only the transportation network which is essential for global business, right? Wherever you go, whichever place you go, you will not find, you will, won't you find an airport there? You will, of course, even at least a small airport would be there, because this is one of the global business development area. Okay, so aviation plays a major role in that. Now, if you talk about the tourism industry and aviation industry, tourism refers to an industry that deals with the people, those who travel from their own place to other in order to visit. So that is what a tourism industry is. That is, they want to travel to another country for their purpose. Now, the purpose could be for medical issue, or the purpose could be for leisure travel, or the purpose could be for educational issue, okay, or the purpose could be for research issue. Anything. But tourism industry is generally based on the travel. Now, if you come to the aviation industry is a segment of travel industry that deals with air transportation from one destination to other destination. So, what is in general aviation industry? This is one of the segment in the travel industry. Okay, so I can't say it's a travel industry in general, because travel industry consists of everything. Your road transport, your water transport, everything comes in. So it is one of the segment. Okay, that's the reason I mentioned a segment. So it's one of the segment in the aviation industry, and it actually deals with the air transportation, which is one of the fastest moving. Okay, and which in turn supports the tourism. That is, in turn, brings the passenger from another country to another country to learn about their cultures, or to make the medical issues, or to learn about the other procedures, everything. So this is actually the interdependence of both of the industry. And to the next slide. Now, aviation provides the only worldwide transportation network, which makes it essential for global business and tourism. Air transportation elevates poverty, and now this is something majorly, it is playing the role in tourism industry, because in tourism industry, the first and foremost, it is bringing up the tourists from one country to other country. Now, if you talk about the regional tourism, then yes, because of the aviation only, there is tourism happening, because more number of passengers are traveling. Provided on that, also more number of employment is also given by the aviation industry. If whatever slide I had already calculated, if you see that 62.7 billion was actually given by aviation only, and rest 36 was actually given by tourism. So it is the aviation industry which is playing the major role, okay, even in the employment basis and the poverty reduction conditions, okay. Be it less, let's say, be the airline is paying less, the regional airline, like, let's say SpiceJet, Go Air and all, is paying less for you, but still they are providing something. That is where something, the poverty has been coming down, right? So it also improves the qualities of life, if we say, okay, right? It is a standardized way. People traveling in an aircraft, if you come outside and say I came by an aircraft, they will be surprised. Oh, because the people think it's a standard of living. Okay, quality, your lifestyle is changing. Okay, then your cultural experiences has been changing since you are moving from one country to another country. There is a change in the cultural experience. So it is something, it is providing jobs, economic growth is there, it is increasing your revenues. Okay, so because you're paying your taxes, even it is increasing your revenue, so that should also be there. And it is also been delivering emergencies. If you could see, uh, for example, uh, during the COVID-19 only, we had our national carrier traveling to various places with the emergency equipments, right? And like your PPE kits was coming from outside, right? So in the same way, when there was a natural disaster had happened, very great example. Kerala, there was flood, right? Uh, uh, but last year, I believe, not last year, day before that, yeah. So, before the COVID-19, we had a flood, right? So, if you could find out, Air India was picking up foods, okay, clothing for all the people, okay, who had been affected by these natural disasters, and we're taking them to the perfected destination and giving it to them. So this is something where even at the time of natural disasters, aviation plays a major role because they also get up in delivering the emergency procedures or emergency products based on the humanitarian aid relief. So that is majorly important. So it is, if you see, aviation is making a greatest move in the entire world. Now, tourism and air transport industry are complement each other because they run together, they go together. Uh, Tourism depends on transportation to bring visitors, while the transportation industry depends on tourism to generate demand for this service. So this is where I said they are interdependent. That is, tourism entirely depends on transportation. Even if they want to get tourists, then they need to depend on aviation. Now, an airline should depend on a tourism because to generate their demand. Oh, I will travel by Indigo because they are on time always. Oh, I will travel by Go ahead because there's only flight to a specific destinations. Yeah, so this is where the travel demand comes up, okay, for the tourists, and the services also goes in a smooth way. Now, growth in tourism industry directly reflects onto the air transportation. If you see, if there is a decline in the tourism industry, then there is a decline also happening in the aviation industry because less number of passengers will be traveling. But the process won't stop because there are other people who are traveling for other purposes, right? It's not only the tourism industry. There are other people traveling for the other purposes too. Medical travel, right? So in the same way, but somewhere it directly reflects onto the aviation industry that, oh, the tourism has been reduced. So when we find that people are coming less, we will come to know, okay, the tourism has been reduced currently. There might be some issue from this country. Okay, so that's how the procedure is happening. Now, over the last 25 years, the number of international tourists has more than doubled. So, in just 25-year calculation, it has been doubled because people are traveling from various countries. Now, there was a huge impact in the last years because of the COVID-19, because entire aircrafts were stopped and the tourism industry was also affected. Okay, so because all the places were shut it down and they were not able to go to the places singly they should have gone if they have to go. So all those procedures and policies were made by the government was really impacted on it. Okay, moving into the next slide. The cost and effect of the growth of tourism. To start with, now this many slides is there where I have included your role, need, importance, everything together. Okay, so it is there in one slide only, so it is more than enough if you read this one slide. Okay, now to start with, the improved facilities have stimulated tourism, and the expansion of tourism has stimulated transport. So um, because of more number of facilities coming into tourism, people love to make a visit as a tourist. Okay, so that is where the development of an aviation has come up. In the same way, development in aviation has also brought up tourism high. Okay, now accessibility is the main function behind the basics of tourism transport. So that is what I said. Due to COVID, we were not able to access certain places. Right, India had stopped everything. Everything. If we think of it, India had stopped aircrafts. The entire aircrafts was stopped for the day because that was DGCA's and it was DGCA's a strict rule that they had not to be flying to any countries, and none of the airline would be coming into our country. So we had stopped the entire aircraft. But later on, when they came to know that the airlines were going on loss, later on when they came to know the tourism was going on loss, and then it is not because of the loss, they found that the health conditions of the people were retarding back. So that is when they started making certain rules stating that no more than two passengers. If it's a three-seated aircraft, then no more than two passengers would be allowed. There should be social distancing. Everyone should be using your sanitizers, that, this, and all. And then later on, they started up making the aircrafts fly again, right? So for starting only, they had opted for the international airlines because they knew international airlines were the airlines which used to bring international passengers. So of course, that is the great income for them, right, for the country. So they started the international airlines in the first, and then the regional airlines. Okay, so if you think air transport plays a dominant role in every phase, okay, it's not only just your tour packages, or not only just your growth of your economy, not only in if you say it's an all-rounder. Even in your emergency case of natural disaster issues, you have all these kinds of things. I badly remember when I was working a while ago, I had, my staffs traveling to Srinagar who actually had a problem where, the disaster had striked. I believe it's somewhere approximately around 5 years back, where a disaster had struck in Srinagar due to snowfall. There was, there was an ice break, and more of the passengers had got trapped inside the ice. And I truly remember that my aircraft, that is my airline, had gone for the rescuing purposes, okay, with our staffs. So if you think about Mangalore crash, the Air India got crashed in the Mangalore airport. Okay, so and none of the lives were actually rescued. Uh, for that also, to help the staffs of other regions. Okay, uh, the staff from Bangalore airport had moved on. Staffs of staffs from Air India in Bangalore had moved on to help the Mangalorean staffs who are there, currently surviving for with the passengers, family, and because they didn't know who the deceased person was, because everything was burnt up. So to help them, we had our staff. So it's all interrelated. It's all based on the humanitarian purpose. That is only because we think that they are also our company, right? First and foremost, we feel that they are our organization. Then we feel that humanitarian touch, because a person who is working in a customer service will always think that he is also a human. Okay, so we know the pain what our staff go through. So that is where this is one of the major touch with the aviation industry we bring in everyone's life. Okay, we feel they are humans. Okay, it is not that you start attending to wipe up the people by stating, oh, it is their job, let them do, it is their destination, let them do. No, here we were actually requested to help our staffs, okay, and we had to move there. So it is actually our responsibility based on our organization, because I already told you, when you're wearing a uniform of an airline, you belong to your organization. You are not no longer you there. Okay, you are we there. So you will have to work in a team. So if at all there was a problem coming up in the other destination, and there is a need of staffs, then yes, they would come back to us stating that we require some of the staff, because that was a very horrible situation, the Mangalore aircraft crash. Okay, Air India crash, when none of them survived and everything was burnt up. Even the pilots and the cabin crew's body was actually burnt up, and we didn't know which body to give to whom. So it was all complicated processes there happening. So they actually required more number of staffs, because the relatives were making ruckus there. Okay, and so if there is a staff required, then you need to be moving up. So if you see, this is aviation industry is actually not only helping in these cases, it helps us to provide, or it helps us to serve the humanitarian. Okay, it will come to know putting putting you yourself in their shoes. So that is what the logo which the aviation industry carries. Okay, even if you're a passenger, if you missed your aircraft, you know how much pain you have gone through. Yeah, 25,000 you have paid for a flight, and you have come here. Might be it is his mistake. Yes, he might have got out of his home a little early, but we can't leave our policies. So showing humanitarian, we can't leave our policies. We can't allow him to go. Okay, so please board the aircraft. We can't say that because we have our time. Our airline managers on our time management. So you need to be careful on that. Don't show humanitarian for everything. But when we see him, we know that how much pain he has gone through. Yeah, there might be an emergency, he might be traveling to, but try to help in other ways from your side. Okay, so that is something where the customer service stands first in aviation industry. So if you see, compared to any mobile agencies or any such kind of customer service agencies, if you say, I have heard people saying that you should watch you should go and see the airline staffs, how they support us. So this is something where, if not this option, give them another option. So you have that kind of, options there. So try to help them. But you need to be specific on whom to help. If it is an intoxicated passenger, it is the problem. You are not supposed to do that. So coming back to my topic, if at all it is not only the social development which they carry upon, it is also the growth in humanity which they bring up. Okay, so about 6.7 million jobs worldwide are in tourism industry, directly supported by the spreading of foreign visitors. So 6.7 million of work is entirely based on tourism industry, where it is only happening because of the international travelers who is coming into the country. Now, taking into account both the overseas visitors and workforce employed, it can be said that the industry is giant in shape. So, if we calculate, I said you, if we calculate, tourism industry is that big, and aviation is industry is that big. So they are big by themselves. Okay, so you can't even calculate how big they are, since the growth is a worldwide one. So the world's largest industry of travel and tourism, how big the airline industry and its market share, as an example, will give you a clear image in statistics. It's shown that American Airlines saves US $40,000 in a year by eliminating one olive from each salad served in first class only. So this is just an example. Okay, just an example where years back, American Airlines had a passenger who had, that was actually the situation which made them to wipe out the olives from their salads. Okay. They had a passenger who had, this was years back. Okay. I don't remember the date. Okay. Passenger who had traveling on the American Airlines and had an olive. Okay, he had an olive which was there in his salad. He had taken salad for his food, and he had that olive, and he had a certain bad kind of allergy on board. Okay, now everyone was so much of scared to see his allergy, sneezing, rumping, running, itching. So all these kinds of allergies had happened to him. And when he had landed, he had been taken to the hospital and told that it is because of this olive allergy. Now this guy would have not had that because he knew he had allergy for the olives, but he didn't even do that. So he would have stopped that. But he in turn blamed the airline, stating that he had already put it up on the ticket, stating that he has an allergy to the airline. And yes, the cabin crew's mistake was that she didn't check it. Yeah. So when you're serving a passenger, if at all you're on an international flight, please check. Please check whether is there an allergy to a passenger. Okay. Please ask them. That is the reason. Then they started asking that, what do you require? Do you have an allergy to any foods? Okay. So all those kinds of things came up later, after these procedures. Then what American Airlines did was a tremendous change. Okay, they didn't wanted their staffs to suffer too. Okay, They didn't want the passengers to suffer too. So why not wipe out the olive from the salad? That's a great idea. They stopped, putting olives into the salads. Okay, and because of that, they started getting more and more of passengers only because of this. Okay, they felt that okay, the others are doing some of the other mistakes, and they started gaining only profit only of approximately US $40,000 every year. Think of that. What is the reason? Just wiping out an olive. Sometimes a smaller kind of, what do you say? Uh, Smaller kind of, changes could also bring you business. Okay, so this